Ebb and flow, in and out, and on and on. The unending cycle continues. This was the way of things, long before Aoela was even a concept in the great consciousness of the multiverse. She was merely a caretaker and a kindly observer of the great journey. How ironic it was that the micro-event that the other gods and goddesses watched mirrored the cosmic voyage. Every now and then, the ancient goddess turned an eye from monitoring the billions of souls on the world to see the happenings of the voyage of the Great Navigators. She was not the only ambassador of death, and certainly not the oldest, but she still liked to keep a finger on the pulse of the world. The majority of her sight was on the waxing and waning of the Aoela people. Aoela peered at the Voyagers displayed on the massive orb and silently chuckled to herself. Regardless of their state, souls often sought out what brought them the most peace. Sometimes the peace was shrouded in other disguises, but nestled at the center of most endeavors was the pursuit of inner peace, or perhaps a better description would be inner balance. Aoela was about to delve back into her duties when one particular canoe caught her attention. It was only shown on the orb for a few seconds before another one was shown. But Aoela the Spirit Mother had seen something. She cleared her mind and pushed away the desire to view the ebb and flow of souls, and instead viewed that singular canoe. There were 3 people sailing it, 2 women and a man. Aoela stared, and the longer that she did, the more certain she felt. A wide smile creased her face and she let out a few aged chuckles. The area around her grew silent, and persistent prickles started stabbing at the surface of her skin. Aoela emerged from the distant sight and beheld all the gods and goddesses looking at her. Somehow that only made her giggle again, and she smiled broader with overwhelming amusement.
Yes, what? What is so interesting about an old goddess, eh?
Many of the eyes of the other gods and goddesses opened wider. Even the 2 whelps born from the slumbering mother of islands beamed astonished gazes at her from the beach.
It has been ages since I last heard your voice, and I have never heard you laugh.
You mean she can talk? Wow, that's crazy!
Of course I can talk. I simply choose not to, as none of you have anything interesting to talk about.
Aoela rose from the log she had been sitting on, and she stretched and twisted a little. Her body popped in various places.
So, what was so funny that it made the Spirit Mother break her silence? If it made you crack a smile, it must be the most hilarious thing in the world. If memory serves, the last time you spoke to us, well...
It was that time on the beach when you first came to us, when you spoke to her.
For just a moment, the sea goddess winced and averted her eyes. Both of the outsiders, the sun and the star deities, made motions to move up to her, but Sudaiba held up her hand.
No, I'm fine. So, what amused you so, Spirit Mother?
I see that the Voyagers are nearing my island. I think I want to have a closer look at them. They are intriguing.
Not only have some of us never heard you speak, but you've never shown interest in the Aoela's voyage before. Come on, old lady, spill! What is it? What's so neat?
The female half of the embodiment of aggression kept switching her gazes between Aoela and the screen. Rather than focus on her, though, Aoela locked gazes with the chubbier member of the... How do they refer to themselves? Ah yes, the Imagination Delegation. Mojo Jala had the same sort of confusion as the others, but he alone had the tiniest speck. A speck of hope. Aoela smiled at him. Mojo Jala's eyes widened. He closed his mouth tightly. His eyes shimmered with a small bit of moisture. He sat back down. And then Yakon noticed his friend. Then Yeka did. Aoela walked past the trio toward the water, where Kajo and Treko stood. She didn't say anything more, but she felt the eyes of the gods and goddesses on her. They couldn't see that her toothy grin returned, but the children of the slumbering mother of islands did, and they stepped away from her as she strode into the divine water. As soon as she was completely submerged, she began walking back on shore, on another place, a place in the mortal realm. There were Aoela people on the beach, but most didn't notice her. Those who did had the gifts. They were the seers, and they merely nodded, bowed, and made space for Aoela. Soon, the Voyagers would come.
One, two, and push!
Rin was at the back of the canoe pushing one side while Lycos pushed on the other. Meanwhile, Mesida pulled from the front. With one last force of effort, they were able to push the canoe fully onto the beach. Sweat glistened down Rin's shoulders and back, and she caught her breath. Lycos wasn't as winded, but he was also quite moist. A sudden voice cut through the air, and a sudden warmth wiggled inside Rin's stomach.
Hey, you made it! Way to go. I knew you would.
Rin whirled around and then grinned broadly.
Alcuvo! You're here too! I'm glad you're here too.
The Siratasi crawled up on the beach. Mesida smirked as she stood beside Rin, while Lycos had a serious look on his face. Alcuvo, on the other hand, grinned from ear to ear.
Hi there, I'm Alcuvo. I'd stand, but, no legs.
Rin bent down, and reactively so did Lycos and Mesida. They were kneeling on the beach beside the pink, purple, and blue Siratasi.
So this is my best friend Mesida, and this is my brother Lycos.
Hi, what's your name again?
Alcuvo. Best friend Mesida and... big brother Lycos?
Yes, I am her big brother. It's nice to meet you. So, how did you meet Rin?
I met them when we first started on the sacred island of New Beginnings. They're really awesome, and they've seen so many wonderful things. They told me about a ton of stuff on our first couple of days.
Is that where you scampered off to?
Mesida was on her feet, and she had one of Lycos' arms clutched in her own.
You know what? I'm hungry. Come on, Lycos. Let's go see what the food setup is for us.
What? Wait, why do I have to go?
'Cause I am a lady and I need an escort. Besides, are you saying you don't want to go off with me?
Despite his protests, Lycos got dragged along, and away from Rin and Alcuvo.
I can see that winning over Mesida will be easier than winning over Lycos.
Two volcanoes erupted within her cheeks, and yet Rin didn't seem to mind.
Do you want to sit in the water?
Yes, please.
They both crawled down the shore until the tide covered their laps.
So, how was your trip? I didn't see you on the Voldo Islands, by the way. Sorry about that.
No worries. I'll admit, I was looking for you, but the storm caused us to arrive a little late.
Oh, I didn't realize it would affect your people too. Oh wait, that's right. Your sails are above water.
Right. We actually had to lower them and wait out the storm.
The undersea current Sudaiba summons are bad enough, but if we try to contend with Ototala's storms at the same time, our canoes would be destroyed. I did see some beautiful things, though.
Really? Like what?
Well, I saw you.
Okay, but really, what did you see? How do you define beautiful?
Imagine seeing hundreds, if not thousands, of fish all swimming in large groups. All kinds of colors, all grouped together. It reminds me of flowers on the surface. I can only see them at a distance, but they look pretty and pleasing to the eye. Well, imagine that, but multiplied by 100.
Wow.
Yeah, and then there were these massive whales that swam underneath us. Have you ever seen a whale before?
No, I haven't.
Whales, they aren't as big as islands, but they are massive. Imagine this gigantic creature that's bigger than 3 or 4 of your canoes side by side, and like 20 of them end to end.
Wow, I wish I could see them like you do.
Here's the best part. They sing.
What do you mean? Like sing? With words?
It's not words like what you and I are using. It's more like cosmic, magical vibrations in the water. You feel them as much as hear them. They touch your very soul.
That's incredible. That reminds me of some of the beautiful things I saw.
Oh, please, do tell.
For just a moment, Rin sat there grinning at the Siretasi, who smiled just as fiercely. Slowly, she reached over and placed her hand on Akuvo's. The Siretasi pulled it back, and then swiftly slid it back under, with her palm pressing against Rin's. Rin swallowed hard.
Have you ever stared up at the starry sky at night?
No, not really. It gets dark in the ocean at night, and while we have means of seeing in the blackness and keeping our homes and villages illuminated, we generally don't come to the surface after the sun sets. I'm sure some Siretasi do, but I never have. Yet.
You know how you said seeing hundreds of fish was beautiful? Well, imagine looking up and seeing thousands of twinkling lights hovering above your head. They glow with this sort of soft light, and yet when combined together, I always feel intensely small in comparison. Not only that, but the ocean becomes black, and so if you pretend, it's like you're sailing through the stars themselves, rather than on the sea.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Our ancestors found a way to navigate by way of the stars, and now we learn to do the same. Sometimes I wonder, while we're looking up at the stars, is there anyone who might be looking back?
Did you know that the Thanatu claim that they have met people from beyond Kavita's reach?
Really? They do?
How about once we both reach Thanatu Island, we ask someone to tell us the story?
I'd like that. 3 down, 4 more to go.
Masita chuckled softly to herself as she peered over at Rin, who lovingly traced a finger along the edge of her newest tattoo. Lycos didn't share the same level of fascination, at least outwardly, and he stared off into the darkness beyond the small campfire. As per the instructions of the members of the Isiba tribe, they were to wait there at their tents for the festivities to begin. They had been told upon completion of their 3rd tattoo that they would be given a tremendous treat. Upon arriving on the islands, they were also warned not to try to access the Pool of Mau'oki, the legendary sacred pool of spiritual power. Doing so would ensure a quick meeting with the Spirit Mother herself. Masita glanced down to her own arm to view the 3rd tattoo. The 3rd tattoo consisted of a band adorned with ovals, with markings that looked like the shells of turtles. Its meaning represented hope, The kind of hope that never faltered, even in the face of uncertainty. Due to its intricate nature, the tattoo took far longer than the first two did. What did Masita hope for? That was a question she had never really pondered. And now, the notion of hoping for something screamed at her. It was nighttime, and the sun had set at least an hour or so ago. Maybe more.
What do you think this special treat is? And when are they going to get here? It's getting late.
Oh, just calm down. It's going to be worth the wait, I'm sure.
I certainly hope so. I feel off.
It wasn't just him. An odd tingle had been probing into Masita's insides ever since she got on the island. It was strange, but she could almost swear she saw something on the edge of her peripherals. Or other times she heard an elderly chuckle in her ear. Masita opened her mouth to say something, but then one of the servants of the Voyage moved up toward their tent, with a small tray with 3 cups on it. Other servants approached the other Voyagers' tents as well.
Oh, is that something for us? What is it?
The servant of the Voyage was a slender man with a pair of large ears, a small nose, and a very large smile.
Greetings. My name is Hideo, a seer of the Aoela tribe.
You're a seer? Like, as in, you see spirits?
Yes, we seers see and interact with the spirits. The chieftain of the Aoela tribe wanted to give you all something truly memorable. He wants to give you the opportunity to meet your Taudaumonia, your guardian spirits.
You want us to see spirits?
Do not be afraid, my friend. Your Taudaumonia are your protectors. They are your family long past, who devoted themselves to protecting one member of their line. You are quite safe from any malevolence.
Masita stopped smiling and she peered at the other two. Much as one might expect, Rin was bouncing in her spot, ready to delve headfirst into whatever this might entail. Lycos' initial apprehension faded beneath his mask of seriousness.
These cups contain water from the pool of Mao-Oki, and thus will grant you greater insight into connecting with your Taudaumonia. Having greater spiritual awakening is our gift to you. Drink the cup, and then let the magic open your mind. Once the effects wear off, you will have a restful sleep.
Hideo gestured to the tray, and one by one, Rin, Masita, and Lycos took a cup. Rin was the first to drink, followed by Lycos, and lastly, Masita. What effect would it have? More importantly, what would she see? The water was quite cold, and it made her shiver as she swallowed it. A surge of magic began swirling inside her, but it dissipated like fog. She gazed into the cup, but it was empty.
How quick?
Hideo had already moved away, but that's not what froze Masita. Rin and Lycos sat quite still, with their mouths hanging ajar, and their eyes opened wide. Their eyes were glossy, with large pupils.
It works rapidly.
Masita leaned back a little, for an old woman sat beside her. Deep wrinkles had been etched into her face. Her long silver hair hung from her head freely, and she wore a faded dress that had once been colorful. The old woman smiled at Masita.
Oh, stop staring at me like I'm a hungry shark. It is great to see you, little one.
I did not expect you to sound like that.
Now tell me, why are you here?
That is an interesting story. I owe a debt.
I thought as much. As soon as I saw you, I wondered if that was the case. Are you happy?
Happy? Yeah. Being around them, well, it's wonderful. The fleeting nature of it all, it's intoxicating.
And what will you do after?
I have no idea. Are they mad?
They? Which they?
Masita averted her eyes, and the old woman placed a hand on Masita's back. Tears welled in Masita's eyes.
No, they aren't mad. When the time comes, they will stand with you. I'm sure.
Masita regarded the old woman again, and more tears formed in her eyes. They fell from her cheeks.
I have to see this through.
I know. And I also know how this ends.
The old woman opened her arms, and she made a simple gesture. Masita slid right into those arms and sobbed softly as the woman's arms enclosed her.